All right, let's go over to East Africa. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted many industries in Kenya, including real estate. It's not been business as usual for tenants, landowners, and developers alike, as they've been forced to rethink the value that they want to get out of property. Since the pandemic, a number of trends have emerged in Kenya's real estate sector. And joining us to discuss those trends is real estate analyst John Mbugua, who is in Nairobi. John, good afternoon to you. First, I want to ask you about Kenya's central bank recently deciding to hold the benchmark interest rate, I believe, at 7%. Has that had any impact on mortgage rates at all?
It has had an impact on mortgage rates for those who are already mortgage holders. So for individuals who already had mortgages, their facilities drastically came down because the government instituted a cap on interest rates in 2016. So people who already had mortgages, they saw their mortgage facilities come down from 20% all the way down to 14%. That's where the impact was felt by CBK retaining their benchmark.
Okay, now as far as the cap on the decision to put a ceiling on interest rates, that's been rescinded, yes? What was the impact there?
Actually, it's more or less just been rescinded on paper, because ideally what was meant to happen was once Parliament passed a bill revoking the interest caps, commercial banks were meant to forward to the regulator, which is the Central Bank of Kenya, new loan pricing formulas. From there, once they got the approval, they would institute it across all their facilities. Unfortunately, for all 42 banks in the country, none of the loan pricing formulas that have been forwarded to the Central Bank of Kenya have actually been approved. So on paper, there are no interest caps, but it's still being implemented informally, you could say.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that update. So how would you rate the government's affordable the Kenyan government's affordable housing plans?
In a few words, a cart before the horse, because they went after development of affordable housing and the houses before instituting measures which would actually create the environment for developing all these houses. And what do I mean by that? I mean water, sewage network, addressing the capillarity of the road network across not only the urban areas, but also the far-flung areas. Because that was not addressed, even the incentives that were given by government to developers to develop low-income housing, they literally just went back to the government and said, look, we need to address issues of water, sewage, road network, and that's what's happening right now.
Infrastructure. Thank you so much. Okay, so what about land transfers? How did the COVID-19 pandemic impact land transfers in Kenya?
Drastically, because one of the things that the government did was close government offices. And unfortunately, land records in the country are not digitized. What that meant was, because there is no digitization of land records, transfers literally ground to a halt.
Wow.
And maybe that has created an incentive now to digitize land records and to enable land transfers to operate on a remote level. Maybe this in the future may be via blockchain and such technologies, but it has definitely given new impetus for adoption of new technologies for remote working.
Thank you so much for that, John. We've got about a couple minutes to go here. What about commercial real estate? Has the commercial real estate sector been impacted?
Drastically as well also, because very many companies had to pivot, had to downsize, and with that, the demand for sizes of office space they are taken drastically reduced. People work from home. other than office space, if you're just looking at retail, a lot of that pivoted also to online space. So commercial real estate holders and developers, they have a long way to go to develop ways to also pivot as well, because this is the new norm.
John Mbugua, I wanted to ask you about rent and rent trending, but we've run out of time. We'll have to have you back to talk more about real estate in Kenya. Thank you so much, John Mbugua, in Nairobi, real estate analyst. Thank you so much, sir.